When it comes to BYOD adoption in the workplace, it is not just a U.S. issue, but a global one. Companies in the U.S. are twice as likely to allow BYOD as those in Europe, where BYOD has the lowest adoption of all the regions. Employees in India, China, and Brazil are most likely to use a personal device such as a smartphone at work. An extensive study that focused on organizations of all sizes, small, medium, and large, and encompassed 8 countries across 3 regions, found that 60% of white-collar workers used a mobile device for work purposes. Also, 47% of those workers were classified as mobile workers by their organizations. The study also found that in 2014, the average number of connected devices per white-collar worker was 2.8, up from an average of 2.3 in 2012, and that Brazil, Russia, and China lead this surge. The study also indicated that India, China, and Mexico had the highest in-case in the percentage of spending devoted to mobility in general. In relation to BYOD in particular, 42% of the workers owned the smartphones they used for work. IT leaders in the U.S., Asia, and Latin America were extremely positive about BYOD, with up to 88% in both Mexico and China expressing optimism. In Europe, IT leaders were less certain, with just 51% overall saying it is a positive development, with a low of 40% in France. Finally, the study also found that employees liked the fact that BYOD gave them control as it enhanced their work experience, with some even indicating that it enabled bottom-up innovation. The previously mentioned statement about Europe not being enthused by BYOD may have a couple of reasons. For the moment at least, much of BYOD involves corporate data being delivered to devices that are not managed by an organization's internal IT department. This has obvious security implications. In addition, BYOD could prove to be more expensive for organizations due to the difficulty of managing various platforms, which in turn may increase the security threats. These concerns may be the reason why some organizations do not fully adopt the paradigm shift. For example, there was a 15% decrease in BYOD in Western Europe in 2013 compared to 2012. Most Western European organizations take a more guarded approach to BYOD implementations when compared to the rest. In a survey, 92% of respondents in China stated that their employers allowed them to use mobile devices on their own networks, whereas only 37% from the UK were allowed to do the same. This may not entirely be a surprise to many, since Europe in general has had stringent regulations regarding the information privacy and security in all realms. There is no question about the fact that BYOD and mobility are real technology trends and are being widely adopted. Both trends are highly correlated, with one being a growth engine of the other. The more we use our personal devices for work, the more we become reliant on mobile technologies such as LTE and Wi-Fi. In a survey carried out by the Ovum Institute, the researchers found that in emerging markets, e.g. Brazil, India, Russia, and Malaysia, BYOD adoption rates were significantly higher than those in the more mature markets. For instance, in Brazil, the adoption rate for BYOD was 65%. In fact, the average BYOD growth in emerging markets was greater than 74%. Figure 1 shows the divergence between average rates of BYOD in growth markets compared with the mature ones. The report presented 2 reasons for the variation in growth rates between the 2 markets. Firstly, there was a lower rate of organizations offering handset and tablets to employees. Therefore, employees felt that in order to do their job well, they had to use their own personal devices. Secondly, the emerging markets had a high level of comfort with the blurring of the boundary between work and personal life. Employees in countries such as Brazil, South Africa, and Malaysia have more flexible attitudes to working hours and are more happy to use their personal devices to complete their tasks. The relatively high penetration of BYOD in emerging economies has been corroborated in more recent literature as well, with the main explanation being a high percentage of mobile subscriptions. India, China, and South Africa show even better BYOD penetration than the rest of the emerging markets. Almost 70% of Chinese, South African, and Indian workers subscribe to the BYOD concept, whereas in Russia, only 55% of the employees use mobile devices at the workplace. Figure 2 highlights the importance of understanding the overall global impact mobile technologies and BYOD in particular may have. Asia represents almost half of the world's internet users and, as an extension, will evolve towards complex and extensive BYOD implementations in organizations.